Hello, and welcome to Mental Health Matters. I'm your host, Liz Lang. Each week on this podcast, we will break down various aspects of mental health. We are so excited you're here and hope you enjoy this week's episode. Hey guys, Liz Lang here with Jeremiah and Selena Woodruff from Core Connection. And this week we're going to lighten things up with funny kid stories. We're all really excited for this episode because kids say and do hilarious things. And part of the reason why we're doing this too is because we want people to experience and recognize the importance of finding joy in parenting. Because there's a lot of hard stuff and there can even be some really heavy stuff with parenting. But it is so important to focus on the joy and the good times and, saying things when kids just make you laugh. So we're going to share some funny stories and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, we're excited for today's podcast as well and looking forward to sharing some of our funner stories in life. And I appreciate that you brought up, that parenting can be tough sometimes, but parenting should also be joyful and we should have fun and enjoy our children and enjoy the process of growth and learning with them. So let's have some fun today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because all parents have made mistakes. They're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you don't feel so great about them, but sometimes, they can just be really funny. So let's dive in. I will go ahead and get us started. So our youngest went through this phase where he was insistent on calling daddy mommy. And it didn't matter what we did. He was insistent that daddy is mommy. And he'd go, mommy, mommy, every time he saw him and we'd get so excited. And so I have this really funny video of me going, mommy, you, I actually said his name, but I said, mommy, you, daddy. And he gets this scowl on his face, touches Curtis and goes, mommy. And it was just really and it was just really cute. Like he was insistent, nope, that's mommy. And we're like, okay, fine, whatever, kid. Eventually he outgrew it, but it was just really funny that he was that insistent that it was mommy, not daddy.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, that sometimes we just got to let those things ride and who knows what the driving force behind that was, but
yeah,
definitely provided some entertainment for you all.
Yeah, it did. Okay, your turn. Give me one.
Okay, I'm going to start, and maybe I should have saved this one for last, but it's my favorite one because I think it's absolutely hilarious. And so let's go down this road. Any of you who have had children, which most of our listeners probably have, know that, children have sicknesses sometimes. They throw up, they get diarrhea, they wet the bed, they have accidents, whatever it might be, right? That's just part of life. Well, several years ago, I was sleeping. My wife was sleeping. It was the middle of the night. And I wake up to, Dad. And I open my eyes and there's a young child standing there. I need some help. Okay, like what time is it? I don't even know what time of the morning it was, but it was the middle of the night. They said, I had a problem. I had to go to the bathroom. And I said, okay, then go to the bathroom. Like, why are you bothering me? Dad, well, I had to go to the bathroom and I was sitting on the toilet and it came out fast. And I was like, okay. And he said, fast like a flamingo. I have no idea if flamingos are fast or not and why he thought they were fast. But what he was really trying to say is that I've made a mess all over the bathroom and I need help cleaning it up. And so we've never let that child live that down. And it is a consistent topic of laughter and joy in our home. And the child doesn't really recall it at this point, but my wife and I will never forget it for sure.
That his bowel movements were fast like a flamingo.
Fast like a flamingo. So now in our house, when a child may have some bowel issues because of a sickness, we ask them if it's fast like a flamingo or if it's normal.
Well, the legacy has gone on because our daughter refers to that with her son too, with our grandkid. She asked him if it's fast like a flamingo.
That's great.
So in our house, flamingos will forever be fast.
Yes. Now I want to know how fast flamingos actually are. We'll have to look that up. All right, Selena.
I got one that we had a daughter that when she was sleeping at night, it was really loud because she needed to get her tonsils out. They were infected. So when she slept, she snored really loud. So when she got her tonsils out, she told everybody she had to get them out because of her snorts.
That's pretty good. My snorts. Maybe it did cause her. Did it cause her to snort when she laughed? It could, couldn't it? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't remember that part of it. It did affect her breathing at night and her snoring for sure.
Her snoring. She had to get her tonsils out because of her snorts.
She had to get them out.
Okay, so my next one also comes from my youngest. He was about 3 years old, and we were at church. And Curtis had just given a prayer during sacrament meeting. So for those of you who aren't aware, sacrament meeting, the whole, like, it's where the entire congregation, family, kids, everybody, the whole congregation is there. And so Curtis gives a prayer. And so obviously, like, afterwards, it's like dead quiet. And he gets out in the aisle and goes, "Good job, Dad, you did it."
So proud. So proud.
And Curtis is just kind of looking at him, like, giving him a thumbs up, like, yeah, I did it. Anyways,
sit down.
Yeah, everybody at church, that's like one of people's favorite stories to tell, is that our son was just cheering on Daddy for doing a good job saying the prayer.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Okay, what else you guys got for me?
I've got another story from when our oldest were pretty young, our two oldest children. And there was one night I heard in the middle of the night, one of them crying.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got up to check on them, and one of the kids they were in the same room, but one of the kids were not in their bed. They were on the floor crying, and I asked them, like, what are you doing on the floor? I don't know. Just a typical, like, middle of the night crying. No big deal. So I got them back in bed, and I never turned on any lights. It's dark at night. We probably had a night light in the hallway or something so I could see well enough to get them in bed, and just wasn't aware of what really had happened. They were calming down, got back in bed, put the blankets on them, and they went back to sleep. No big deal. So I got up the next morning and went in to check on them. And I see this child that had been crying with blood all over their face.
Oh,
and it was pretty terrifying for a moment. There was blood on the pillow. It was a mess. And so I'm freaking out a little bit, but trying not to freak out because I don't want to freak them out.
Uh-huh.
It ended up that in the middle of the night, they had fallen and hit their head on a toy box and split their head open and had been bleeding. And it wasn't like dangerous bleeding.
Yeah.
It looked a lot worse than it was. And so I got them up and cleaned them up, and we determined, okay, and that's not the end of the story. And that wouldn't be funny. The funny part is that we determined, you know what, this looks like it probably needs stitches or something. Let's take him to the family doctor. And we took her to the family doctor, and the family doctor said, I really don't want to stitch her forehead because that's going to leave an ugly scar right there. Let's use some glue. Let's try and glue it together. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. Let's do that. So we started gluing it together, and the doctor started acting a little bit funny. Well, the doctor had glued his finger to the child's forehead and could not get it off. And we all found it pretty comical because, it's just not that big of a deal. He was quite embarrassed. The doctor was, but we always tease our daughter about the doctor gluing his finger to her forehead. And of course, with a little bit of effort and work, we got it off, and everything was fine, and she healed up really well. But certainly a fun experience that we can look back and laugh at now, and grateful that it wasn't worse. But the moral of the story is figure out why the child is crying in the middle of the night instead of just putting them back in bed. At least they have more serious complications with severe bleeding.
Yeah. Oh man, that poor doctor. That must have been mortifying because, like, you're supposed to be the doctor. You're supposed to be the expert here, and here you are super gluing your own finger to a patient's forehead.
He said great. It was a new kind of glue.
That's
okay. Well, we'll go with that.
I got a couple funny food stories with kids. I feel like kids are pretty funny when it comes to food, what they say or how they respond or react to certain foods. But our son used to call chocolate donuts chocolate breadsticks. Could I get a chocolate breadstick?
That's
we had
cute.
to figure out what a chocolate breadstick was, but like the long log donuts, that's what he wanted when he said chocolate breadstick.
That reminded me of a good food one. Our youngest, he kept asking me for bacannoli. Bacannoli. And I'm like, what?
Yum.
And I'm like, bacannoli. And I'm like, I know this kid is not asking for a cannoli because we've never had cannolis or talked about cannolis in our lives. So I know this kid is not asking for a cannoli. But I'm like, what in the world is a bacannoli? And I could not figure out what he was seeing. And then he saw guacamole. And he's like, yeah, that. He wanted guacamole. And I was like, oh, yes, you can have some guacamole. But he was calling it like, I could not figure out. He's like, we have some. And I'm like, no, kid, I do not have bacannoli. And I was like, broccoli? You want broccoli? He doesn't like broccoli.
I thought you were saying something with broccoli.
That's where I would have gone with it.
And I think that's the first place we did go because that was the obvious one was broccoli. It's like, you want broccoli? And he's like, no, broccoli's gross. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I've tried to give it to you before. You didn't like it. And he was like, bacannoli. And it was guacamole. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yup.
So I made oat milk cookies a while back, obviously. And one of my kids ate them and said, are there wood chips in these?
You're like, no.
Or when my daughter said, we had wheat tortillas and she said, oh, I don't want that. I don't want the healthy tortillas.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no health food here.
No healthy
apparently.
tortillas. I don't want the healthy tortillas.
Why would you? Because white carbs and refined sugar is so much better. It tastes way better.
Yep.
Okay, let's take a quick break and we will be right back.
Eye-Opening Moments podcast are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcast.
Okay, so one of my children, when they were young, had a hard time saying grandma and grandpa. It was quite challenging for them. So one day they decided they made up their own name for grandma, and her name for about 2 years was Bonkers. And we still don't know why they called her Bonkers, but I want to talk to Bonkers. I want to go to Bonkers' house. When's Bonkers coming over?
That is amazing.
Like absolutely no like rhyme or reason. Like it wasn't like a shortened version of grandma or anything like that. But her name was Bonkers.
It was Bonkers.
So, and grandma still talks about being called Bonkers to this day. She thinks it's pretty funny herself. So,
which is
at least it didn't hurt her feelings. That's
right. Right. Yeah. Yep. Which I've often told people, like, if you're going to be offended by something a kid says, you've got bigger problems than the fact that a kid said something offensive. But
true.
Anyways. Okay. So this next one comes from my oldest. She's probably like 8 or 9 years old, and we were making her clean her room, and she was upset about it and she didn't want to do it. And so I'm in the laundry room and I hear her complaining about it, and she's just in there going, this is going to take forever. I'm just going to live in here forever now. I'm never going to leave this room. I'm never going to get my life dream. I'm never going to get married, and I'm never going to have kids because I'm just going to live here in my room forever. And I'm just sitting here silently laughing in the laundry room thinking, well, there could be worse things. But I just thought it was really funny that she was like, in her mind, she was never going to get married and have kids because she had to clean her room.
Well, that tells you how overwhelming it could be sometimes for children when they're given certain tasks. When it feels overwhelming, they don't have a great concept of time. And
Good call.
Like seeing that unsurmountable chore in front of them just feels like it's never going to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But
Good call.
It does turn comical for mom and dad sometimes.
Uh-huh.
I have had a kid tell me that I'm ruining their dreams. I'm ruining their life. I'm ruining their dreams when you try to tell them to do a chore or something like that, right?
I feel like if your kid hasn't told you that at least once, you're not doing it right.
That's
It
when you're
does
just
feel that
like,
way.
yep, I am.
Mm-hmm. Yup. Okay. Give me another one.
So we had a child that we were at the neighbor's house talking to them, just outside talking. And she's like, you guys are funny. You don't park your car in your garage because you have too much stuff in there.
Oops.
And I was like, well,
Oh,
because they did have a lot of stuff in their garage and they couldn't fit their car in there. But she probably didn't need to point that out to them.
Probably not.
they lack filters.
They
and
really
so
do.
They just say what's on their mind. But I've got a couple of more that I was going to share from my childhood, some funny things that
yeah.
I did. And one of those was that one afternoon I was at home and I was probably 10-ish and I had fallen asleep on the couch. Now, my head was leaning up on the arm of the couch with both of my hands like under my face, almost like as if I were praying, right? With my hands together, like praying hands or something.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was sleeping, I was dreaming about playing baseball. And wouldn't you know it, in that dream, I hit a home run.
Nice.
But in the process of hitting the home run, I swung my hands right out from underneath my face as hard as I could to hit that home run. And by so doing, literally threw myself off of the couch in my sleep. And this was witnessed by all of my siblings who were watching TV in the living room at the moment. And everybody wanted to know what I was doing and why I threw myself off of the couch with my hands while I was sleeping. So that was a pretty good memory for me. That was pretty funny as a child.
I bet your siblings love looking back on it and laughing about it too, because that would
sure
be pretty
they
funny.
do.
Okay, here's one from our son that we had the missionaries from our church over and they were sharing a message with us and he fell asleep in the middle of them teaching and they turned to him and asked a question and he sat up and folded his arms and started saying a prayer. He thought it was like prayer time and he was getting called on to pray, I guess. But we all just like sat there and looked at each other and we're like, I guess we'll just let him say a prayer.
Right? That works. I have another one. Okay, so I have another one for my oldest from church. So kids also aren't very good at pronouncing words sometimes, which can be quite funny. And so when our oldest was learning to pronounce sit, she added an H in there. Yup. So we're in the middle of church and she's just shouting, sit, sit, sit. Only it doesn't sound like sit.
Oh, no.
Yep. Yeah.
That happens often. We have a grandson that his parents like to make him say chicken frequently because he can't say it.
Yep.
Kids, learning to say words. My youngest brother called me Abizabeth or something like that for the longest time because my mom thought it was hilarious and she thought it was so cute. And so, because my family always called me Elizabeth, and my youngest brother had the hardest time. Well, most young kids have a hard time pronouncing that name. It's just for whatever reason, it's a hard name for kids to pronounce. And so I was called, I think until he went like to kindergarten or preschool, or his preschool teacher was finally like, you've got to stop encouraging him to do this. He's got to start saying it right. Like his teacher had to tell my mom to stop encouraging it so he would pronounce it right. But she just thought it was so cute. So she let it go for a long time. He also said, he also called hamburgers, which I think a lot of kids do,
Yep.
which is funny. Anyways, okay, go ahead.
So I had a daughter that made us some healthy popsicles. She took
Okay.
water and froze them. She said, if you ever need some dessert, I made you a healthy popsicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very healthy.
Yum.
Yeah, that is very
Probably
healthy.
is. Probably is what I should be eating for dessert.
Is water, is ice cubes.
It's called ice.
It's called
We've got
ice.
more of it.
Yeah.
We've got more of it in the freezer already. Thank you.
Yep.
She was very proud, though. Very proud.
Yeah, that's great.
We had a time where Selena and I, we don't ever fight in our marriage, in case anybody
Mhm.
wants to know. That's a lie. We were having a disagreement.
You can't,
one
if
day.
you don't fight, you don't get to make up.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right.
We were having a disagreement one day, and I was quite frustrated. And unfortunately, our children heard some of the conversation, and I said that I was leaving. Now, I think that Selena and I both understood that that meant I was going to take a break from the situation, not that I was actually leaving.
Right.
And one of our children broke down and began to cry and said,
Oh, no.
"Oh, great. Now we're not going to have a dad anymore."
Oh.
And it was really comical, but quite heartbreaking. And
Yeah.
so we had to sit her down and have a conversation with her and explain that sometimes when people disagree, they need a break to cool off and to have a clear mind to continue the conversation. And that leaving meant leaving the situation, not leaving the home, and that I would never leave the home and never leave her. But it was kind of comical, but pretty sad too.
Well, and which is great modeling, honestly. That's like perfect modeling, because that is a very, very healthy conflict resolution strategy. Is I need to leave the situation. I'm flooded.
Yep.
I'm too heated. That's actually really great, but that is unfortunate that your daughter was convinced that you would just abandon your family over. And I guess in kids' minds, I guess they do kind of tend to catastrophize things a little bit.
They do.
Yeah. Okay, so another one. This is my middle daughter, and we had, like those, I think it's called like a Huggle. It's basically like an oversized hoodie. It's got like a pocket. Okay. So so she's wearing one of those, and it went all the way down to the floor. So she put the hood on. She comes up to me and she has her hands together and she goes, "Hi, I'm Red Jesus." And we're like, well, yeah. And I'm just like, well, do we take that as blasphemous, or is that just funny things that 3-year-olds say?
That's funny things that 3-year-olds say. I
we
don't think a
get to
3-year-old could
enjoy.
be blasphemous.
I agree. But yeah, it was just kind of funny that she thought she was Red Jesus specifically.
Specifically red. I didn't know that they were colored, but
I didn't either. Maybe she
there's
could.
just a Jesus. That's all I know.
Right. Yep. Okay. I've got another funny food one. So my youngest does food therapy. So, because I think I've shared this before, he's diagnosed with avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. And so getting him to eat is a struggle. And so we had just finished a therapy session where we were talking about food and all these kinds of things. And afterwards, he goes, "Mommy, can you eat a seed? Can you eat some seeds?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah, I'll eat a seed. Do you want to eat some seeds? We can learn about seeds." He's like, "No, I want you to eat the seed." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, yeah, I'll eat some seeds." And he's like, "Yeah, will the baby grow?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I want you to eat the seed so that the baby will grow in your tummy." And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, first of all, where did you learn this? Second of all, that's not how it works. But he was just so adamant that he wanted me to eat a seed so that the baby would grow in my tummy.
Well, come on. How many of us have made jokes about swallowing a watermelon seed and having
Right.
a watermelon grow in your belly? And
Yeah.
I'm sure that's left plenty of children confused over the ages about what happens and how babies get in our bellies.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. I'm pretty sure that was an episode on a cartoon once that I watched as a kid. Like he swallowed a watermelon seed and the kids had to like go inside and retrieve it so that it wouldn't grow into a watermelon in the kid's belly or something like that. And I'm like, gonna give kids messed up ideas about how biology works.
For sure.
My grandpa used to say that all the time when he saw a pregnant lady. "Oh, look, she swallowed a watermelon seed." So that's where you get it.
That's why children are confused, I guess.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this and you were able to laugh with us. If you have any funny kid stories that you want to share, we would love to hear them and we would love to share them on the podcast, because I think everybody just loves hearing about funny things or embarrassing things that kids say, because sometimes they do things in public or they'll say things to people that maybe you wish they wouldn't. And in the moment, I get it. It's not funny, but it's fun to laugh about it later. So share those with us if you have them. Our email is in the show notes, so you're welcome to check that out.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Liz. And in addition to that, if any of our listeners have questions they would like us to address on the topic of parenting as we move forward, please reach out. And we'd love to maybe address any questions that you might have, or we could even produce an episode based on those questions. So reach out to us and share those questions with us, and we'll get to them as soon as we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in addition to that, we've got a few changes coming our way on our podcast. And one of the things that we'll be looking forward to sharing with our listeners over the next couple of weeks is that Core Connection is in the process of developing some free downloads, one of which will include some things we talked about last week in our podcast, some meditation ideas, some mindfulness ideas, just different ways to manage our emotions. And so be looking to the future for that coming out and how to get access to that in one of our very near future episodes.
Okay, so next week we are going to continue on a little bit of a lighter topic, and that is the importance of strong marital connections within a family. That's going to be another good episode, and we will see you all next week. Have a question? How about a topic you'd like us to cover? Send us an email at mentalhealthpod21@gmail.com.